Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi, your host at GVWire Unfiltered. Welcome to another great episode tonight, coming to you live from this beautiful Fresno, California, which, by the way, is going to have a nice cooling trend coming up. Our guest tonight is Manuel Bonilla, president of Fresno Teachers Association, to discuss all things Fresno Unified, the resignation of the communications director, dollar amount of settlement, what is the board going to do tomorrow night, and more, and answer some of your questions. Weather this week, again, beautiful cooling trend coming this weekend. You should have a fabulous weekend. Now, why would you want to live anywhere else in the world or California when you have this beautiful weekend coming up? Also, we have a awesome meteor shower coming our way. That is, well, it ends sometime next week. Very bright next few nights. Be on the lookout. Even though I think didn't we have a full moon a couple of nights ago? Nearly 200 Gazans, half of them children, have starved to death since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. How do you feel about this? Majority of you, 61%, said, I'm disgusted. Israel has turned this war into a genocide. More polling on that coming up. Stay tuned for that. A couple of other items. Oh, by the way, Manuel Bonilla, FTA President, is going to be joining us later in the show, but we have a lot of very exciting stuff coming your way, which Bill is going to discuss here shortly. Okay, will downtown Fresno lot finally become housing? Piece of property across from one of our projects, by the way, the lead project that Granville built, over a decade ago, approximately a decade ago in downtown Fresno. This is right across the street. Those of you that will have witnessed Granville's projects, once we acquire a piece of property, within a couple of years, sticks go up in the air, and about a couple of years after that, the place is fully leased. Hopefully this thing will have a positive result with a nice, cool new project in downtown Fresno. The location, again, is slide 7. That's the mayor. He's not the developer, but I don't know why we have the picture of the mayor on that, because he's not for sure the developer. And that is the location for those of you that are passionate about downtown Fresno development. Bill McEwen, comment on that?
Yes, Darius. So the picture of the mayor is because he told our Edward Smith that to get this built, he's willing to do a bridge loan, a 36-month bridge loan. You know a lot more about these things than I do, but basically it's to cover that initial period while you're funding the construction cost. And the mayor also says he wants to offer this kind of thing with city council approval for 4 other development projects downtown. Now, he declined to tell Edward where the other projects are. The other thing that our viewers will want to know is this lot is now in the hands of Ed Cashin. You know him for developing River Park. And this is to be market rate housing. And I think it's about 50 units. And the mayor said there'd be a swimming pool on top. So one thing I want to credit Mayor Dyer for is recognizing that downtown needs affordable housing and market rate housing both. We've seen recently quite a bit of affordable housing, either planned or actually going in downtown. Now, converting back to some market rate. So anyway, 54 units and a pool on the top.
Pool on the top sounds really fabulous. That's you're seeing that in some of the Bay Area, Southern California complexes. It's expensive to build, but Ed Cashin knows how to develop properties. So looking forward to seeing that. And next we have our a weekly report from Council President Mike Carbasi. Let's get that show on the road.
Hi, this is City Council President Mike Carbasi with your exclusive for the Unfiltered audience only update for the City Council meeting this Thursday, August 14th at 9 a.m. at City Hall. I'm actually reporting to you right now off of Blackstone north of Ashland. There was a groundbreaking for the new Senior Activity Center, which is going to be the largest senior center in the entire valley. Kudos go out to my colleagues Tyler Maxwell and Nelson Esparza for their work over the years to make this possible, as well as the administration for all their hard work. I do want to talk about the meeting this week. It's been a month since we met. It's the summer break. Not a lot of controversial items on the agenda, but one thing that's of significance to you when it comes to public safety is we are approving a lease for a new police headquarters. The building they are in now, if you've ever been down there off of Mariposa Mall, is very antiquated. There's asbestos, in fact. That's why we're building a new dispatch center, and they're moving to a different site. This building will be across the street, so it's still centrally located. And we're going to approve the lease, but we're also going to approve a bond measure that provides funding for several public safety items like a new fire station, as well as tenant improvements, about $12 million of tenant improvements for the current building. If the council approves the lease on Thursday, after I think 20 or 21 years, for $1, we actually get the building. So it's a lease to own. It's a really, really great deal for the taxpayers of Fresno. I look forward to the debate, and that's probably going to be the hottest item on the agenda this Thursday, August 14th. And back to you, Darius.
That was awesome. Thank you, Mike, for that great update. Bill, do you know much about that lease for the building coming up in downtown? Police headquarters. You're on mute, Bill. You're on mute, by the way.
So we're going to have a story tomorrow morning on this, and it would be a 21-year lease. And he talked about, well, you can buy it for $1 at the end. The rent's going to be $1.2 million starting in 2026, and the rent would increase by 10% in 2031, 2036, and 2041. This building also was owned by Ed Cashin. It was built in 1948, but it was renovated in 2022. And the city plans on using bonds to fund $12 million in tenant improvements. So there you have it. It'll be up to the city council to decide what to do on this.
Okay, I forecast a 7-0 vote on this. We'll see where it goes. Okay, next item, because we have our special guest that has joined us. We're going to try to get to Manuel Bonilla here shortly, but we have probably another 10 minutes to go. Bill, California Supreme Court hands victory to rooftop solar panel owners.
So what's important about this is it's an initial victory, and it's saying that previous court erred in its ruling. And there's actually a lot of implications for one of your favorite regulators, the California Public Utilities Commission. Now, people that watch this show know that we're not impressed with the California Public Utilities Commission. Too much representation for the utilities, not enough for the average citizen, the ratepayers. And what the court said was CPUC's got to do a lot better job when it makes decisions, has to do a lot better job of sticking up for the little guy. So this is significant. And this plan the CPUC approved would have significantly lowered the potential to save money with rooftop solar. So again, it goes back to the lower court, but this is a good initial victory for ratepayers of California.
Great, thank you, Bill. And then California taxpayers gave PG&E a huge loan. Losses are already mounting. This is also one of your stories, Bill.
So that comes to us from Cal Matters, and in 2022, the state loaned PG&E $1.4 billion to continue operations of Diablo Canyon. It's California's last nuclear powered center. And the reason was we need the electricity. We'd gone through the rolling brownouts and the like. So it made sense to keep Diablo Canyon open. And Governor Newsom, he went to the lawmakers and kind of twisted their arms. And he had some Democratic leaders twist arms. And what they said was, don't worry about it. The feds are going to come through with a significant part of the funding for this loan. California taxpayers, yes, initially on the hook, but we'll all get repaid from PG&E and from the feds. Well, as of today, it looks like taxpayers of California can be on the hook for about $600 million. And a lawyer representing the Utility Reform Network said for this story, it's not a loan, it's a gift. And by the way, the Fed's not paying this back has nothing to do with the changes in administration. This is based on the fact that to get that money back, very complicated. And I believe that California leaders misread the rules for those grant applications. And in fact, California not eligible for a lot of the funding they anticipated. So again, if Governor Newsom's going to run for president, here's another story that Democratic rivals and Republicans will bring up.
It's only 1.4 billion though, Bill, to gift to PG&E. It's still only 1.4 billion. Okay. Democracy be damned. Texas and California plot dueling gerrymanders. Bill, that's another one of your stories.
So, I mean, basically this started when President Trump, he wants to retain control of the House after the 2026 midterms with the Republicans. He pressured Texas lawmakers, hey, draw up your maps again. Normally, states redistrict after the census every 10 years, right? But they have this plan in place. They haven't revealed it to the public, but Republicans have a majority in Texas. They have the state house with Governor Greg Abbott, and they said full speed ahead. Yes, sir, Mr. President, we'll do it. Governor Newsom reacted by saying, well, if they do it, we're going to do it too. It's a lot more complicated in California. In Texas, the legislature's in charge of drawing the districts. In California, it's up to an independent citizens redistricting commission. Governor Newsom's idea is that they'll draw up the new maps and they'll put it to the voters in a special election this November. Now, on Monday, Governor Newsom offered President Trump an off-ramp. He said, look, if you stand down, if you tell Texas not to go through, we'll pull back with all our plans. And the real big danger here is other states are falling in line. So you have red states saying, me too. You have blue states like New York, Illinois, Maryland. They're saying, me too. And we know how bad this is for democracy. And, let's just have these 2026 elections fair and square. Let's see where they fall. No crazy redrawing of maps before the census.
But typically aren't these maps drawn? I mean, there was lots of accusations when that new congressional district was produced or created in Central California that, hey, this was just created for a Republican. That Congressman Devin Nunes held that seat for, over a decade before lines got drawn. Doesn't every state typically do that?
So what we had for a long time in California, especially after the Democrats became dominant, Darius, the Republicans agreed to gerrymandering. They said, as long as you give us our X number of seats, and maybe a couple more we can battle for, we'll be happy. When the independent commission came in, it's based on areas of interest. The idea is not to discriminate against voters of color. In other words, lock them out from having a representative of color. And it seems to have worked very well here. But even with the independent commission, Sometimes it comes down to, okay, we got to be fair for the Republicans too. Let's draw them up a seat.
Got it. Because when you first look at the map, you go, okay, why are these lines all over the place? Well, you go, well, there's, you know, at least for congressional districts, equal population. So you look at Central California lines are all over the place because we go to the foothills, very little concentration of population versus the urban areas, but um,
You
a
know,
lot of
the
politics.
other good thing that happened with that seat that which doesn't exist anymore. It's been recalculated now. That's been redrawn, but giving the valley more representation because a lot of people felt the valley had always been left out. So even Democrats, I think, believe that better to have an extra seat, and it's a Republican drawn seat. That's better than having one fewer seat.
Got it. Moving on to a couple of other items. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat bellwether, and she's changing her tune on Israel. She said, and I'm not quoting her, but basically, kind of enough is enough. It's crucial that the Israeli government must do more to alleviate the urgent humanitarian crisis. I mean, starvation. Folks are starving to death in Gaza, starving to death out of thirst. And everybody says we got to do more, but the bottom line is we don't. Of course, we have a lot of control over that part of the world, especially Israel, throughout the Middle East. And she joined 24 other Democrats and 2 independents in a failed bid to block weapons transfer to Israel. Of course, Israeli lobby very powerful in Washington. Um, Zero tolerance for anti-Semitism on campus. A bill going through Sacramento, AB 715. Jewish group sponsors bill that would require standards for teaching about Israel-Gaza war. And the California Teachers Association is opposing it. Introduced by Rick Chavez Burr out of Los Angeles and Don Adis out of San Luis Obispo, both Democrats. And CTA, we hope to have somebody from CTA on over the next few weeks to explain their position. They said this could create issues, arguing it emphasizes punitive measures over education. 715 saying that Assembly Bill 715 is flawed. A couple of articles on GB Wire about that bill and who the sponsors are. It's sailed through the Assembly 68-0, and now it's kind of going through Senate at a slower pace. We'll see where that goes. I thought actually they were off for during the state legislature was off in August, returning in September, but maybe not. Targeted Israeli rocket strike kills Al Jazeera journalist in Gaza. Previously threatened by Israel, was killed along with 4 colleagues in an Israeli airstrike on Sunday. The UN condemns the killings of many journalists. It was just one of them, saying Israel's military action represents a grave breach of international humanitarian law. Of course, a lot of previous, from Mossad heads to ex-prime minister of Israel, condemning some of the actions in the Gaza Strip, especially the humanitarian disaster that is being forced upon 2 million people in that part of the world. Gaza suffering has reached unimaginable levels, say 24 foreign ministers. Do we have a video to play on this too? If we do, let's play that video, and then we're going to get into our special guest. Let's play the video.
قتل الزملاء الصحفيين في قناة الجزيرة هو
The killing of our colleagues, the journalists from Al Jazeera, is a crime that was not the first of its kind. The occupation, from the beginning of the aggression, has killed dozens of journalists. And this is a crime that the international parties must stand up to against. And there must be a court case against the occupation for these crimes that are committed against our colleagues who convey the truth.
الحقيقة.
ما جوش كلهم لسه انا مستني اخواني
That he's actually a Hamas member or Hamas leader. Of course, he says that he was not before his death. Israel military says it targeted and killed Anas al-Sharif, alleging he had headed a Hamas militant cell. Terrible thirst hits Gaza with polluted aquifers and broken pipe. I mean, we're out of internet. Forget water. We're out of internet for an hour here in the United States. It's like the end of the world. These folks, a lot of them are going to die. A lot of them are going to have diseases. A lot of them are going to get, they're not going to have any growth. Whoever survives this starvation of these folks, and I'm really ashamed to say that the international community is not doing anything to stop this. Aid agencies warn that starvation and dehydration are now frontline effects of the conflict, not just side consequences, as families spend hours daily hauling unsafe water. Despite Israeli claims of resumed supply, most of Gaza's water comes from contaminated wells, forcing children to fetch water and bathe in the sea as new pipelines face delays. Okay. Israel continues to bomb. 80% of Gaza has been bombed by Israel, destroyed. I mean, I don't know what the long-term plan is, but somebody had a plan before they started bombing it. And we'll find out soon if it's going to be a Israeli resort on the Mediterranean with 2 million Palestinians forced to go elsewhere, or is it going to be a Palestinian state, or is it going to be a U.S. controlled territory? Maybe the 51st state. Bill, what do you think about that?
I think there's a better chance that President Trump will try and build his Riviera project, turn it into a resort with no Palestinians there.
I think it would be awesome if the 2 million Palestinians were allowed to stay there or go back to a rebuilt Gaza as the 51st state. We give them all pathway to residency. Okay, FTA. Fresno teachers demand board members hear Nikki Henry settlement. Let's welcome Manuel Bonilla. By the way, I'm going to ask, before we dive into Fresno Unified, Manuel, do you have any info on this bill 715? You're on mute, by the way. Let's test that again. Uh-oh, we have. You know what? Let me see if there's a way for me to. No, is there? Eric or Paul, is there a way we can unmute? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. It's under Eric. Why is it showing under Eric? Eric, can we, Paul or Eric, can we, he is not muted on our end. Can the audience hear Manuel? Manuel, I can't hear you. Bill, can you hear Manuel?
No, I'm not able to hear Manuel.
Okay. Manuel, drop down the arrow next to your mic. It may be picking up a different mic than the one you have. Just go under the mic arrow, the drop down. In the meanwhile, a couple of questions. Eddie Friedman, where's Gaza's government? Well, Gaza's government, there is really no, it's supposed to be Hamas, which has been destroyed. Chris Dowdy, yeah, I'd like to know if any other country in the surrounding area is being pressured to intervene in Gaza, or if the U.S. is the only country being used to help. U.S. has actually has helped Israel provide bombs and military aid, close to 20 billion, to kind of destroy Gaza. So that's kind of what we know. And somebody at some point is going to figure out what to do with that strip. I think we lost Manuel, but he's gonna hopefully get back on again here shortly. Let's put up slide 23. Well, we're waiting for Manuel's return. Fresno Unified will pay Nikki Henry $162,000 without board's public vote. Bill, this has been, I know at least one board member, trustee, Susan Wittrup, has asked this to be put to a public vote tomorrow night. Do you know if this is on the agenda for Fresno Unified's Board of Trustees to actually hear this publicly, or they're just going to ignore this? We just did it. We're going to ignore it.
Doris, it's not on the agenda, and at the meeting, we're told that Fresno Teachers Association will ask that it be put on the agenda. So we'll see if the teachers have that kind of clout to get that done. Even if they don't vote on it, let's say they don't want to go there, they say, well, we authorized it in closed session. And as you know, Darius, a lot of people think this is a Brown Act violation. District's lawyers say it's not a Brown Act violation. But I would think the trustees, because of the controversy, rather than hiding, would explain their reasons for why they approved that. I think in the least, the public needs to know that. You're looking at $162,000 settlement for somebody that didn't do their job properly, and in fact, did some really bad things. And this person resigned. And, you know, usually when someone resigns, you don't give them lovely parting gifts. This isn't The Price is Right. And when I think about $162,000, I think about the poverty of the Fresno Unified School District many families. For some families, that's probably 3 times what they make in a year. And, you know, they have 2 or 3 kids. And yet you're giving someone who's been paid well into the 6 figures for 5 years, you're giving them another $162,000 to go away. On the flip side, the district may have its reasons for doing this. It may fear it has to pay an even bigger bill because of what Nikki Henry knows, or what might happen in future lawsuits where they might need her testimony or something.
You know, their annual budget is over $2 billion. So we've heard from folks that go $162,000. It's not that much money compared to the annual budget. Why is FTA and, you know, one board member, Susan Wittrup, making a big deal about this? I think Wittrup's trustee Wittrup's issue was the transparency. The people should know how folks are. Well, I don't think she said. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but maybe silenced. And especially, like you said, Bill, if somebody resigns, why do you have to give them $162,000? And that's 2 to 3 times somebody's annual household income. What is that median county household income? 65,000, 70,000 is some number like that. And then, oh, we can hear Manuel. Let's get Manuel on. And then Manuel, hold on. And then Manuel put up an article. They joined one of the articles on GB Wire a few weeks ago that said that's double the salary of a teacher. So you lost 2 teachers, but I'm gonna actually ask Manuel straight to the point.
Yep.
Do you think this payout was a cover-up, and why isn't the board president and the superintendent Because those are the two folks that determine the agenda. Why are they not putting it on the agenda to be voted on publicly? Several folks, you have asked for it. Trustee Wittrup has asked for it. Why is it not put on the agenda? And was this a cover-up, in your opinion? Manuel?
Can you, I want to make sure you can hear me now.
We can hear you
Awesome.
beautifully, and we're going to just put you on the screen only so the audience can see you. There you go.
For
Cool.
sure. So what I could say is that there are a number of irregularities that have happened in this case. We go back to a number of people in that role, some type of senior leadership role, and every time they had a settlement agreement, it has been put on the agenda and voted on. So when you see that, and there's a number of irregularities that I want to just point to people watching, right, is that number one is, I don't know at what position of employment that you could have some level of misconduct to this magnitude, and you get a settlement agreement out of it. Traditionally, that person is reprimanded or they are terminated, they're fired. So that's one irregularity. We don't know if there was an investigation. Really, the investigation could have been short and sweet. Person did it, they shouldn't have done it to that level of magnitude, saying 40 things, 39 items that were false and created by AI. That's an issue for your chief information officer, because that is a level of trust with your, it's not a private industry. This is a public entity. So that's one thing. The fact that they are trying to thread a needle, they being the district, that in regards to their public vote, that's another issue. They should be responsible to the taxpayer. They are elected leaders. They need to be responsible to the taxpayer. They go and ask for their vote, and then when it comes time to actually put something on the agenda and report out, what we know is that there hasn't been a report out of their action. And action is a motion, a second, and a vote. We have a trustee that says that an official motion, second, and vote hasn't taken place, that they haven't been able to vote on a final agreement. So when you bring all those things together, I could see why when we polled everybody in our association, 98.6% of our respondents said there feels like there's an ulterior motive, and it definitely could seem that way based off of what has happened.
You talking about Susan Wittrup, trustee, that has asked it to be put on the, who are you referring to?
Yes, so Susan Wittrup has been the only trustee that has acted with this level of transparency with our board. You see these elected leaders, they want to become elected, they want to become trustees, they want to be in positions of authority like a board president, a board clerk. And then when it comes time to face the public and to give an explanation, there may be the best explanation there is, then come out and talk to your public, the people that are paying your bills that you are responsible for, that you go and ask to be elected. And instead of coming out with transparency, we see this pattern, this culture where they want to hide behind things like saying it's a personnel issue and others, as opposed to just simple transparency. Trust and value and respect the people that you are elected to help lead. Instead, we have the opposite, and that is frustrating because, particularly in an education setting, we're supposed to be teaching our students about good governance, about good civic engagement, and it doesn't seem like we have that now. I applaud Susan for standing up and saying that this should be on the agenda. We have formally requested under the district bylaws, as a member, if you go and look at their bylaws, it allows for a member of the public to request that an item be put on the agenda. Be put on the agenda. Vote on it, right? Let's see what that vote is, because to the normal person, $162,000 for doing something of this magnitude is just illogical.
Why do you think, so when you were off, I was asking Bill if he knew it was on the agenda, and of course, I think we all know now that it's not on the agenda. Trustee Wittrup has asked to be put on the agenda. She has said it many times to GBY. You have asked for it to be put on the agenda. Is it Misty, her superintendent, newly elected superintendent from a few months ago, and new appointed, I should say, and the board president, who is Valerie Davis, are the two of them set the agenda? Is the two of them who you've been communicating with to say, hey, please put this on the agenda so the public will see who has voted to pay $162,000 exactly for
Yes.
somebody that has resigned. Have you done that?
Yeah, so just some background so folks know. Either the superintendent or the board president can put an item on the agenda. What we did in using the bylaws is we said there's a bylaw that allows for any member of the public to request one of those folks to put an agenda item on. If they deny it, they're supposed to provide a rationale as to why it was denied. They haven't done so. In fact, they haven't responded to my request that was sent over. In addition to that, as you might know, any trustee during the meeting could ask for an agenda item to be placed. If the the board president or the superintendent is unwilling to do so, if the trustee has a vote, a second, excuse me, then they could all vote as a body to put something on the agenda. They want transparency. They say they want transparency. They say that under these new goals and guardrails, accountability is important. They have a moment to show the public that this is important, and they're choosing not to do that. That's a frustrating thing in regards to what we deal with as a culture.
Several comments. One, Liam Mail, 162 would hire 3 new teachers and reduce class size. Chris Dowdy, I know some things as the chairman of the PAC at Fresno Unified. I wonder, oh, he knows some things. I wonder if I can get them to pay me not to talk. Liam Mail, I hope Trustee Wittrup moves to have the agreement put on the agenda for a vote. I think she's asked for that. Now, I don't know what authority or power she would have tomorrow night to ask that again of Board President Valerie Davis and Misty, her superintendent. We'll see. Chris Dowdy, she can't do it alone. She needs more votes. Remember that in 2026, when 4 members go up for election. Oh, remember that. Okay, so there's 4 members go up for election next year, although 2 of them, Keisha Thomas and Elizabeth Jonathan Rosas, if I read that correctly, and Bill can correct me, or maybe Manuel can correct me, are not choosing to run again for trustee for Fresno Unified because they're looking at a campaign for Fresno City Council. Manuel, are you aware of that? And then I'm going to go to Bill.
Well, what I do know is that they ended their campaign committee for the school board. As you know, that doesn't preclude them from starting another one if they so choose. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they are not going to run. I would say that it is up in the air in regards to it. We do know that Trustee Thomas does want to run for a council seat. We know that Trustee Jonathan Rosa did run for a council seat, and I don't know, I can't confirm whether she's going to continue to run. But I think that the issue is this, is that if anybody is not willing to take on these hard choices and an elected leader at this level, why should we trust them at the next level to do the same thing? That is a concern. I think it gives insight to leadership and decision-making in this district that has been just below the surface for far too long. And it gives insight to why things happen where we're not moving forward as a district. And that's unfortunate.
Bill, comment?
So, I mean, when you think about the timing, you're going to have the primaries for the city council seats mid-year. They'll know the results. If they don't advance, I don't see anything that stops them from running for school board again in November. However, I mean, they've kind of signaled that they're interested primarily in the city council seat because they've closed their school trustee fundraising committees. So we'll see what they decide to do. And I think it depends on the elections. Darius, I had a question for Manuel, if you don't mind.
Please.
And so Manuel, what does it say that Misty, her is appointed as a superintendent, and one of her first job assignments for her executive staff is to compile a hit piece against the union? I mean, when she was being hired, she was talking about improving literacy and raising student achievement and all that. But clearly, one of the biggest priorities was to start a fight with the union. And then before you answer, I'll throw in this. Nikki Henry was hired by Misty Her's predecessor to promote good news about Fresno Unified. She's not the kind of super sleuth or someone you would task with assigning to compile a dossier. I mean, it's not in her wheelhouse. And I'm not excusing the fact that she plagiarized for this report. But what does it say about the superintendent when job 1A is go after the union and the person you assign it to has none of these skills?
Yeah, I'll answer that in reverse order if you don't mind. So I think it's based off of the way you view communication. As you saw from our past superintendent, much of this was PR stuff in regards to communication. And again, as a government agency, and particularly around the education of our students, we view communication completely different. We need to have a transparent communicator, somebody that is able to do so in a concise manner, give the information, to have an efficient system for our educators, for our parents, and for our students. That didn't happen. We got a lot of PR, ukulele, those type of happy-go-lucky type of things. And although there's a time and a place for that, that's all that we seem to get, right? Now, in regards to your question, in regards to the superintendent, it is frustrating both professionally and personally because the stated reason that she's given publicly is that she wanted to try to mend relationships, if you will. You don't ask somebody to create a dossier like that if you were authentically personally attacked. In our meetings, they had, if there was something that I said that personally offended, more than willing to say, hey, maybe I didn't mean it that way, maybe this was the intention, never wanting to personally attack anybody in the system. That is not our job. Our job is to create a better Fresno Unified. We could only do that if we work together with leadership, with board, those types of things. The fact that you had to have somebody else create a document to show that you were personally attacked means, in my opinion, you weren't necessarily personally attacked. And then to double down, triple down on the fact that these 40 instances that were created, to admit that they were AI created, but then to say that the gist was there, and then to make the step that because of the things that were created, that were fabricated, that it led to a physical attack, that is frustrating for a leader in our education system to have made public comments on that, knowing that those things were false. And so I think, again, we have called for the very beginning that an investigation take place so we could just get to the transparency of what happened. As a leader, Superintendent Herr, I believe, is a decent person, a good person, but a good person upon learning that these types of mistakes took place should also take full responsibility and accountability within the system, both professionally and personally. That hasn't happened yet, and it feels like a doubling down of all these other items. And that is frustrating from a parent perspective. As a parent of Fresno Unified students, it is frustrating on a professional level because if they were willing to do so, to do these types of things to myself and my colleague, knowing that we have a higher level of visibility, what does that say about the bus driver? What does that say about the classroom teacher? What are they willing to do or to say about those? That should concern people.
We got a lot of questions. I'm going to try to get to some of them. Chris Dowdy, that is how Viva got elected, failed the city council and jumped into trustee for the kids. Angel Gomez, why don't you ask Manuel the fame audio? All they do is go after Misty for her pay. Well, so Misty makes
Darius,
double the amount.
I mean, sure. So I will push back on regards to that. Anything about pay, anything like that, we have never gone after her in regards to her pay. We say here's the amount of money? Absolutely, it is a public record. It's something that happens with teachers as well. We never said that she shouldn't be paid that amount. We actually said that about her predecessors, where we said about Bob Nelson, about Michael Hansen, very publicly that they shouldn't be compensated for that amount. We never said anything in regards to Superintendent Herr in regards to that. And some people would like to use this as their own narrative, particularly around the search process, to say that we never wanted her as a superintendent. That is inaccurate. Again, People, it seems like in leadership positions in this district, seem to conflate personal and professional. When we're asking for transparency around a superintendent search process, doesn't mean we're against a person. It means our public is owed a transparent process. And so that's my frustration. I think a lot of frustration you hear with our educators is saying it seems like there are two sets of rules, those for those at the central office and those that are educating our students. This is a government agency. Everybody is owed transparency in the process, and we need to build confidence back with our public. The district leadership has lost the confidence of our public. We need to, as a system, regain that. And these types of activities don't do that.
Great point. What happens, by the way, Superintendent Her is at, I think, slightly over or around $400,000 a year. Mayor of Fresno is around 200 and change. I think the city manager just got a raise, and she is, and I know she's under $300,000 a year. And city manager of Fresno has got a lot of complicated challenges and issues to deal with. Test scores for 2020, well, 2024, 2025 school year. Are they supposed to come out tomorrow night? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Manuel?
I don't know the specific date and time. I do know it should be relatively soon, though.
Okay, they have a special Fresno Unified that has a special announcement. Bill, is that tomorrow during the day or at the board meeting?
So tomorrow morning, they're having a news conference. Fresno Police Chief Mindy Casto will be there. I don't know if FTA representatives have been invited. A news release said that some trustees would be there. I would expect they're going to address the importance of attendance, protecting families' immigration status. We can hear from them. The police chief can talk about to what length they cooperate or don't cooperate with ICE. We do know that Los Angeles Unified is offering a basically home education program for families that don't feel comfortable sending their kids to school. It's a complicated issue. I would hope that Fresno Unified's Brain Trust has been thinking long and hard about this, even plotting out various scenarios and creating contingencies so they'll be able to deal with it. In the news release, the superintendent was also quoted as saying, she's excited to share about the learning that has been taking place in the district. So we'll see at the news conference. That's why gvwire.com will be there with education reporter and a videographer. You can count on us for in-depth reporting on that. Darius, Sanger Unified seems like they might be one of the first school districts in the state out of the box with their test results. I think part of the reason is they showed such great improvement. They want to put it out there for everybody to see. And in a nutshell, Sanger Unified has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels for English language arts and for math. I would also note that Sanger Unified, 13,500 students, and about 13% or so, maybe 17% are English language learners. That number's much higher in Fresno Unified, much, much higher. Tall challenge for Fresno Unified in trying to bring their students up to standard. That said, every child deserves the right, and Fresno Unified needs a plan that challenges students, holds them accountable, holds families accountable too, because as you know, Darius, the difference that education's made in your life, I know the difference education's made in my life. I was lucky to grow up in a family that pounded that into all 6 of the McEwen kids. You better get an education. You better learn to read. You better respect your teachers. You need to participate in sports or drama or whatever else is there. Education's an opportunity. It's not drudgery. It's not something to be feared. being in a military family. I had the experience of being educated in military school, parochial school, public schools, moved very often, always a challenge. I feel I have a lot of empathy for families in Fresno Unified.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, and I think Manuel will agree, that Fresno Unified will take off like a rocket ship when it finds that way to successfully engage with families and let them know how important it is for their child to go to school every day and to respect their teacher, and also to tell their kids that there's hope for a much better life right around the corner.
Okay, here's a score from 2019 to 2024 proficiency test results, different school districts. You can, I think this is when we were looking at folks from other states that were applying for as superintendent.
That's correct, Arias.
Yeah, so thank you, Bill. So those are take a look at those scores. Almost everybody, the superintendents from those schools had higher scores than Fresno Unified did in 2019 or does today. Of course, we didn't go with any of those superintendents, but we've already discussed that at length. A couple of comments, by the way, Manuel. It sounds like there's a couple of folks that want you to run for political office.
Whoa.
Have you ever considered running for, I don't know, like Congress or president? If you were born in the United States, you can run for president of the United States.
Yeah.
Are you going to think about, are you going to launch a campaign for that or no?
Maybe not the president of the United States. No. So listen,
Okay.
I absolutely love education. As a graduate of Fresno Pacific University, one of the things that they talk about is in their teacher ed program, their mission statement is that teaching is a calling to redemptive service. And I believe wholeheartedly in that in regards to my work in the classroom and now with this work outside of the classroom to support our educators. I believe in Fresno Unified. And I'm tired of the comparisons with other school districts. I'm tired of the test scores conversation. We could do better. There's so many great people in the system, and we get in the way of ourselves because of senior leadership, because of culture, because of trustees that they create these own fiefdoms. We need to clear that out so that way the people doing the work, the people in the classroom have the ability to actually flourish with their students, to feel supported with their students. So I feel like this is my a work alongside our great leadership team, and this is where my heart is to improve Fresno Unified to its potential, because we're not there yet. We need to, and so this is the work that I absolutely love.
So, Anu, let me ask this. So what happened with I mean, there was 3 other candidates for superintendent, and there's those of us who believe if you have the right CEO, you can, who picks the right executive team, you can do beautiful things.
Right.
And again, I don't know Misty Her that well, but I just look at the test results, and test results are not good. I'm really hopeful that tomorrow Misty Her releases a bunch of test results that shows under her tenure, which is over a year, by the way, that her test results are already showing improvement, especially literacy, which is one of the things that she said she's going to take on and fight aggressively, making sure there's great programs. But what is FTA doing to make sure our kids have a better educational outcome? I mean, were you involved in the superintendent search? And I know that's, from several months ago, April of this year. What was your role in making sure that right leadership is in place?
So we live out our role. When they ask what do we do, we live that out every day. I'll go specifically to the question you asked. We were not involved in the superintendent search. In fact, you may remember we asked as an issue of transparency when finalists were selected if we could hold a town hall, because we believe that people should have an opportunity to hear the vision of the finalists. We were blocked in that. We were ridiculed by district leadership in regards to that. Speaking of certain trustees, not all of them. Right. In fact, one trustee, the board president, said if we wanted to hire somebody, we should have hired our own consulting group. which is absolutely crazy to say, but somebody wants transparency about the process.
Who said that, by the way?
Trustee Valerie Davis said that. If
Okay.
FTA wanted, they should hire their own consulting group. Again, imagine that that's the reaction from wanting transparency and to hear a vision and to understand what that person was about. That was the reaction. In regards to what do we do, I think it points to the idea that too many times in Fresno Unified, we want the silver bullet. It's not with one group, one person. It's what can we do collectively? We bring ideas to the table. We are not the administrators of the district, though. And so ultimately, it comes to that's why we need good trustees. That's why we need good senior leadership. That's why we need parents that are engaged. We have some great parents. How can they get more engaged? What are some areas where they could show their leadership? Because I think that they want to. They just may not know where and how. And then obviously a strong labor unions to be able to collectively lift. We constantly bring new ideas, but again, it's hard because we cannot administer them. We have to work together to do that. We often run into the roadblocks of the culture in Fresno Unified, doing things the status quo way, because that's the way we've always done them. People that don't want to speak up to buck the system because they're afraid that there might be retribution. They don't want to be the ones responsible. We need thinkers, we need ideas, we need new ideas, some that may fail, but going at it with new ideas, and we just don't have that yet. We continue to push the envelope to make sure that we do get that, because there are, again, some great people in the system, whether they be our classroom teachers or others in the system.
That's a great response. Manuel, I want you, before we have a couple of minutes left, what are you going to do tomorrow night to make sure the public sees the audience and the constituents of Fresno Unified, and of course the teachers and all the folks that work there, see a transparent vote? You've asked for it. Trustee Wittrup has asked for it. It's not on the agenda. What are you going to do tomorrow night to see that it gets on the agenda? Or if it's not on the agenda, we just pack up and go? Or
Well,
what's going to happen tomorrow night?
We will continue to make sure that we advocate for transparency and for good governance, right? I don't know. We'll see what happens in regards to the response. We'll try to hold those accountable. We spent a lot of money, as you probably know, to oust a couple of the incumbent trustees because we're tired of this type of leadership, right? At a certain point, it is a collective lift. We need to make sure that there's good journalism. I applaud a couple of the reporters from GB Wire of having these conversations and bringing to light. Why are other news organizations not talking about the good governance? And we need to make sure that our constituents are engaged, that there's not a level of apathy, so that way they could also hold these trustees accountable. Because again, it comes back to, is this good governance or not? If you have a position, own the position as an elected leader. They are not doing that, and in the process trying to gaslight people. What it feels like, again, 98.6% of respondents to our poll feel like there's something that's an ulterior motive. We need to change that so people have confidence in our system, our leaders. Let's change it. We'll see. We'll keep advocating.
You know, over a year ago, when there was a decision to go local or national search, I asked the trustees. I actually got on the lectern and I asked the trustees, let the public know what your vote is. You don't be proud of your vote in closed session. And we had some data that, at least in my opinion, says that they should, discuss the results of whatever they did in closed session publicly with the vote count. And that's my opinion. That's my opinion of the way the laws are written. Their attorney, of course, disagreed with me and said that they don't need to address that publicly. I hope that you're right.
Can I interrupt you? And
Please.
I apologize.
Yeah, please.
Is that we experienced that so many times in our system, Darius, and people listening. It feels like, if anybody has ever watched the movie or the show The Crown, this feels like the establishment, if you will, run by and threaded the needle by attorneys. So what you said, because we can, they try to find these legal things, but is it the right thing to do? An example that it will impact the classroom. You know that in our special education department, there are a number of IEPs. When you do an initial IEP, it's not technically part of that person's caseload, right? But it's a lot of work that needs to happen in order to get that initial IEP done so that our student can get the services necessary. The response from the district is, well, legally, we don't have to put it on their caseload as a number within the collective bargaining agreement, so we're not going to. But is that the right thing to do in order to make sure that the student's supports can be met, and that that student gets the support mechanisms and the teacher is able to provide those supports? And well, we don't have to because a lawyer says this thing. But what happened to doing the right thing? Too many times it's hiding behind this legal aspect, and that is frustrating, particularly when we're talking about the flip side. They say, well, why aren't you? We often have as teachers, well, think about the kids, think about the kids district, think about our community, think about our constituents, and say, if it's the right thing because it's transparent, then that's what we should be doing. That doesn't happen often in our system from the senior leadership.
Before I bring Bill McEwen has a comment and a question, here's a list. Can you see the screen? Here's a list of the 7 trustees. There we go. And 4 of them are up for re-election next year. It's I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, Manuel. Is it Valerie Davis, Veva Eslis, Keisha Thomas, and Susan Wittrup? Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Bill, you had a question or a comment, and we're going to wrap up after this.
Yeah, just one quick question for Manuel, and that's the use of consultants. And I've often felt that Fresno Unified should be doing these things themselves. You have this great bandwidth with your veteran teachers. You know what you're looking for when you're searching for a top administrator. But it dawned on me, and it took a long time, in this last go around, they hire consultants so that they don't have to be transparent. And I'll explain to the viewers. GV Wire files a Public Records Act request about something they've done, and the district come back and says, well, we didn't do that, the consultant did, and the consultant's not subject to a Public Records Act. So are Fresno Unified and other school districts hiring consultants simply so they can hide their homework?
That's a great, can I jump in before Manuel answers? That's an excellent question. Manuel, for the audience, that's an excellent question, Bill. Manuel.
It definitely feels that way. Consultants, again, I'm not going to say it's 100% of them are bad. There are some definitely good consultants. But you see, just in the last board meeting alone, we have $500,000 contracts, 1-year contract for consultants to do literacy walks. Or you have one example, $235,000 for executive leadership training. So that way there's, quote, courageous leadership that happens. Again, why are these people in those positions if they need that much support in regards to outside consultants coming in and telling them a certain thing? Even with something as big as the goals and guardrails, that's really just a consultant from the Council of Great City Schools. And so you layer and layer and layer and layer instead of just simply bringing in the experts and listening, designing together. It's more efficient, it is more authentic, and yet it sends something through the system where the teacher needs to be fixed as opposed to relying on the teacher as the solution. It's the teacher is the problem, they need to be fixed. We could change the culture of this district by listening to our teachers, listening to our parents. Instead, it feels like edicts are coming down from on high. And until we get a more collaborative culture, this district will not get to its optimum level, if you will.
Great answer. Any other final comments, Bill or Manuel? Because my final question again, what should the audience do those folks that are watching this, especially live, the board meeting is tomorrow at what time does it start? 4:30 at the Fresno Unified headquarters on Tulare. What should the if actually let me ask this question: if Nikki Henry or Valerie Davis are watching this manual, what should they do? And then I want to ask Bill what the audience should do.
If I assume you meant Superintendent Her.
I'm sorry,
already-
Misty. I'm sorry. I apologize. If
Right.
Misty, Superintendent Her,
Right.
or Valerie Davis, Board President, were watching this, what should they be doing?
If they
sorry,
wanted,
yes.
if they wanted to have to bring confidence back to this system, is to show leadership, to come out, and I think that this has been done from the very beginning. If you are not going to put it on the agenda and have a public vote for public money for a payout that was happened after serious misconduct, if you're unwilling to do that, then show leadership by having a press conference and say, this is the decision, here's why we made that decision, and own it like a leader should. And that would restore at least a little bit of integrity in regards to this process, because that's what should be happening, particularly with our trustee, because they are an elected person, right? This is, again, a government entity. This is not a private business. That's what I would do. And as a leader, that's what I have to do every day. We have, like, if there's a big decision in our association, you face the fire, you explain, here's why, you trust the people, you don't treat them like kids, you treat them like adults, like people that will understand. That's what they should be doing for our public. Whether they'll do that, I wouldn't hold my breath on that, but that's what I think should happen in a situation like this.
Well, Superintendent Her has a press conference tomorrow. If she's listening, because we've invited her to this show multiple times and have not heard back from her. I don't think we're her favorite news outlet, but hopefully she's listening and she has a press conference tomorrow and she can take your advice and explain the decision making, what happened, and the process. By the way, Angel Gomez has a question which I think could be relevant. Will FTA run candidates or oppose the re-election of any candidates? I think you may have talked about it here.
Yeah, every election cycle we get involved, obviously, because those people are making major decisions about what I described as people's calling, right? So we always do that. It's a democratic process in regards to what we go through before choosing somebody. It's voted on by multiple bodies within our organization. So yeah, will we get involved? Absolutely. And when we get involved, we want to make sure that it's somebody that is a friend of education and classroom centered, right? I make no qualms about it. There are folks that have been put on that board that have just not lived up to their potential as an elected leader. So we'll have to have those difficult conversations, and we'll see where we land as we get closer to November 2026.
One other question. I'm sorry, I got to ask this. Robert Wharton, has anyone asked them? I'm assuming it's the superintendent that Robert is referring to, or some of the board members, what they are hiding.
I don't think that they would answer in regards to that. I think that if they were to be honest, that there is probably they probably were going along with some of the silliness that was happening, right? And I don't know if they know how to hold anybody accountable. That's what it feels like. Because even in a situation like this, it's very logical, as I mentioned earlier, an at-will employee. I don't know how many at-will employees could do that magnitude of misconduct and be offered that magnitude of a settlement agreement. Darius, you run a business. I can't imagine you paying out that much money for somebody that has that egregious of actions, right? So, and I know our educators don't get that same level of grace when things happen. And so that's the frustrating part. There should be an equal playing field. There should be transparency for our elected leaders. And that just doesn't seem to be happening in this case. And so that's why it is frustrating for many of our educators.
Thank you, Malik. Chris Dowdy had a comment, a few minutes ago. It said, "Hey, if you're a home builder if your scores were like Fresno Unified scores, how long will you stay in business? Which is a really, really good point. A lot of things that we should be ashamed of on the scores that we're getting. I'm really looking forward to Superintendent her hopefully releasing some positive results tomorrow or here quickly. Bill McEwen, final comments?
I just want to thank Manuel for coming on the show tonight and having a great conversation. Very enlightening.
Thank you, Bill. Again, Manuel, on behalf of all of us at GVY, thank you for, as president of Fresno Teachers Association, to join us, share your insights with the audience tonight. And this show will be available for at least a week for folks to view it. I'm going to, there you go, and sign up for our daily morning newsletter so you can get a very brief email on all the stuff that happened the prior 24 hours, especially here locally. And I encourage those folks that want to know more about Fresno Unified to attend the board meeting tomorrow night and ask the trustees and ask the board president, Valerie Davis, and the superintendent, Misty Herr, please do a public vote so we all know how each trustee will vote, even though the money has been already spent or at least released to the ex-communications director, how folks voted to spend their hard-earned taxpayer money. With that, thank you, Manuel, for joining us.
Thank you.
We may we may see some folks tomorrow night. I know you're going to see GV Wire covering the event tomorrow night, and hope to see you again soon. Maybe next week after we'll see what happens with board decision making tomorrow evening. They didn't put it on the agenda. Let's see if that can change with some inspiration. Let me put it this way, by Manuel Bonilla and Trustee Wittrock. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And have a great week. Fantastic cooling this weekend. Enjoy the weekend and see you all next Tuesday. Good night.